A quick question before we get started. If I asked you to describe your retirement plan in 3 sentences, not your investments, not your accounts, your actual plan for turning everything that you've built into a lifetime of reliable income, could you do it? Most people can't. And today, we're going to talk about why that matters. Welcome to Unlock Your Retirement. I'm Bruce Smith. I'm the founder and president of the WealthKare Investment Center. And this is where elite wealth planning begins and traditional planning ends.
Well, hey, Bruce, I'm excited about this. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. Yep. I'm excited to be here. We talked before the show, and I said, Bruce, you are easily one of my favorite people to talk to because you have extensive knowledge. You've been doing finances as long as I've been doing radio, and that's a long time.
I thought you were going to say as long as I've been alive. Then I was going to just say, well, we're signing off for the day, ladies and gentlemen.
No. I've done radio. I started in 1984 when I was a senior in high school. I got my first full-time radio job. So I've worked radio. I did a number of years of radio promotions for record companies and artists, but while I was doing that, I still had a show, still did things. So I've always done voiceover work and radio. I love it. But I love this show because I always learn something. And you're an idea guy. I'm sure our listeners and viewers get that Bruce Smith is an idea man. And I'm glad you're here to share these each week because this sounds like a good one too. I know that a lot of people, when they plan their retirement, don't they think, I'm going to describe my retirement plan as a 401k. That's their retirement plan. So they don't have actually an income plan, how they're going to convert that lump sum to income, how they're going to make it last as long as they do. And that's where you come in and to make sure they don't make expensive mistakes. But I think that opener has gotten people's attention today. How have you been? Really quick before we get into it, I have to ask, have you been keeping busy?
Yeah, we have been busy. It's tax season. Of course, we're busy. Everybody and their brother is it's that time of year. But yeah, and another thing that works into that is we're getting a lot of calls. We're getting a lot of people because, and I've said this for years, and we've had such a good run in the market. We really have. I mean, if you're just talking only about portfolios, we've had a good run in the market. And people get selective amnesia. It's kind of like, oh, well, the market's always going to go up. It's always going to go up. I remember the dot-com bust. I remember several busts because I've been doing this so long, like you alluded to at the opening there. I remember the 87 crash, for God's sake. But, the dot-com bust, I remember two things I remember vividly. One was Enron. I remember all the people that worked at Enron. And when they went bust and people were carrying their boxes out from cleaning out their desk, and they were talking about, I think it was over 90% of the people who worked for Enron had 100% of their 401k in Enron stock because it was just a rocket ride. It was an elevator to the moon. It was incredible. And, you think about that, these people, they had huge numbers on their 401k statements, and then it became zero, truly zero, and we always, don't ever, focus that hard or have that significant of a holding in any one thing. And I've kind of walked away from the process. Yes, there were tons of people that worked for IBM and we've done a lot of rollovers for IBM employees. And they've done very well. We have truck drivers, who worked for Walmart. They've worked for Walmart for a number of decades, and they've got, $1 million plus in their 401k. They've done well because of the company stock has done well. But, they said, should we concentrate, to that level? And I recommend against it. I'm a big fan, obviously, of diversification. But now as the market is in its upheaval mode, and people are getting statements and they're seeing their numbers drop, and they're calling and they're saying, hey, you talk about wealth protection and wealth preservation on the air, is that something I should really be looking at? And I said, first of all, it should not be a flight to safety at the expense of growth. The fact of the matter is that, will your portfolio rebuild? And we're going to talk about that uniquely today in the show. But You want to be in the best position. That I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do you. We don't know what's going to happen. We see so many things. I just saw an interview with a potato farmer of all people in England, and and we talk about this. I mean, these are things that we don't understand. We live in a global world, and everything is a global impact. And everybody's talking about oil. Everybody's talking about the price of oil, all the issues going on with oil. Record crazy numbers for a barrel of oil. And I forget what the number is. Is it 20 or 25% of the global oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz? What people don't know is that over 30% of the urea that's necessary to make fertilizer flows through there.
Yeah.
So this is going to affect farms worldwide.
It is affecting farmers already. Prices are going up.
You've done farming. I've done
Yep.
farming. The fuel's going to hit the farmer from one side, but right now with the seasons the way they are, the farmers are going to start deciding, okay, am I going to do a heavy fertilizer crop, or do I have to make a lateral shift and go with something that'll require less fertilizer this season? And that's going to change food supplies, and that's going to do so globally because it's going to affect farmers everywhere. And that's not going to fix itself in 1 week or 1 month. So
No.
there's a lot of things that happen, but as we've seen the upheaval, people are saying, what should we be doing? You say, look, now's the time to revisit that portfolio, and instead of taking a laissez-faire attitude of, oh, well, it's going to come back. Yes, I believe it will come back, but under
Sure.
what terminology and what happens to retirees, it's different than your 401k, how it comes back. We're going to talk about that. But, is be in a position that if the market continues to slide, and I think that's the thing I remember from the .com slide was it slid, but it just kept sliding. And I think it was over a period of 9 months that it's just, like, when's this thing going to turn around? We could certainly be in one of those positions. So,
Yeah.
if you're saying, look, can I have wealth preservation and additional wealth protection today, Bruce, but still have a good opportunity for growth? The answer is yes. And you could probably be in a better position for growth. The second item is you want to make sure you don't have investments working against each other.
Sure.
We have where, people, they can grow their money, but this one over here is not growing well, or it's going the other direction and it's offsetting gains. So lots of things happen. Yes, we're very busy.
Yeah, I know you've been really busy. I'm excited because this is important. We're going through a lot geopolitically right now. No one has a crystal ball. We're not sure. Are they going to reach an agreement? Will the Strait of Hormuz open back up again? When will it happen? And has drastically this first quarter affected the markets. Now, the markets are really based on the soundness of the companies, how well the companies that make up the market are doing. And American companies are strong. That's good. They're resilient. I think that's good. So there's still a lot of reasons to be positive. I mean, geopolitically, it is affecting things. The price of fuel affects a lot of companies, like you said, farming, and it affects, everything that's made and eaten and distributed eventually. But if it gets resolved quickly enough, it'll bounce right back because our companies are well. And really, the stock market at the end of the day, how well are the companies doing, right?
You just used the word geopolitically twice in less than 5 minutes, and that's seven syllables.
I get a gold star.
Do
I get the gold star?
Scrabble or whatever, you would have like a quadruple score or something. That's pretty amazing.
Hey, don't get me. Later I might even use the word arbitrage. And so we might even
that's a lightweight. Arbitrage, 3 syllables. Geopolitical. Geopolitically, yes. Okay.
But arbitrage is harder for people to understand than geopolitical. So
that's true.
But you're right. I mean, Bruce, we do have plenty to celebrate, but also there's legitimate concerns out there. But people, when it comes to their retirement, I love what we're going to talk about today. I love what you called the show. It's like, you have all the pieces. You don't have a plan. You have pieces. So again, I use the analogy, Bruce, and I love to compare you to this, but people are sitting there and their retirement and their finances are 1,000-piece puzzle sitting on the table, and they have all the pieces. But what don't they have? They don't have the box lid. that you're not going to put together that 1,000-piece puzzle without the box lid. And Bruce Smith is that box lid. He's the big picture. And Bruce, we need you to be there to be that box lid. What's the most important piece of any puzzle? Not the last piece, not the side pieces, not the first piece. It's the box lid, because you're never going to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle, especially in a time-effective manner, without the big picture box lid. And most people don't have that, right?
Wait a minute, hold on. I'm on this website, newsstoriesforoldradihost.com.
Oh, yeah. I know I've told that one before, but
he's beating on this puzzle.
But but it fits perfectly into your title.
I want to know how many puzzles you have in your house. That's what I want to find out.
I tell you what, I have a mother-in-law and a wife who love puzzles. So we are loaded for bear with puzzles here, Bruce.
I hated putting puzzles together.
I'm not a big fan. I'm not a fan myself.
I'm just not.
Yeah,
I would cheat. I would put numbers on the back of it so I could use the numbers and put it together. Okay. Did you ever take a piece and did you ever hammer it with your hand and try to force it in? I've done that a few times.
Maybe once or twice. I don't know.
I think at a high speed, and that's a low speed maneuver. I love puzzles. I love math puzzles. I love things like that. But
yeah, physical, just looking for a piece. I can't see you doing it. You're like a goer, and you're getting things done. You're building things. A puzzle is a little tricky when it comes to it's just a slow moving vehicle. But we're using that analogy, so I brought it up again. I do drive that one home, but I just love to compare you to a box lid. That's the only reason I bring it up, Bruce.
Yeah, I would take the box lid, take it down, have it scanned, have it printed the full size of whatever the puzzle was. I'd have it cut out in puzzle pieces and put it together.
Look at you, see? And you'd probably do that in 5 minutes and beat everyone.
I've got a plan, Yeah.
Yes,
Nobody wants to play Monopoly with me.
No, I'm sure they don't.
I eviscerate people in Monopoly.
Sure. Yeah. You've got an unfair advantage, I think. Your giant brain, number one, but number two, you're going to destroy people in Monopoly. I get that. I would never play you in Monopoly. There's not enough money in the world. I would bet on you if there were wagering involved.
Oh, I got to talk about betting on me. Oh my God, this was amazing. This is right up your alley. You would love this. Actually, I hope we didn't talk about this last show. Did we talk about the ice cream place on the show last time?
I don't know if we did or not.
Oh, but I told you about it, right?
You told me about it.
Yeah, it's my God, ladies and gentlemen, it was great. I happened into this ice cream place, highly recommended. Great reviews on Yelp, and the whole place was decorated in 1970s records.
Yes,
it had Stevie Nicks, it had the Clash, it had the Cars, it had all this stuff, and I'm just loving this. And they had some amazing ice cream. And they had adult ice creams. They had 20. You have to be 21 to get some of these ice creams. They had peanut butter whiskey and jam. And I kid you not, the lady said, "Oh, try it, it'll blow your mind." It tasted like a peanut butter sandwich.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right?
And she's like, "I told you it'd blow your mind." So we're sitting there, and here it turns out it's trivia night. Didn't know that. And she goes, "So for this one, who was the artist that recorded the 70s favorite Disco Duck?"
Oh, yeah.
I'm just sitting there talking to Monica and Vaughn, and I go, "Rick Dees." And she goes, "You're right. You win." I'm like,
I remember you asked that, and I said Rick Stevens, and you're like, "No, Rick Dees." But they're both radio announcers, famous radio announcers. Yep. And I got the wrong Rick, but yeah, Rick Dees, Disco Duck.
And then she said, "What was his band's name?" I said Rick Dees and his band of idiots. And she said,
I would have never gotten that. Yeah,
you've got to come back here and be here. So trivia, that's more.
I'm gonna hit that hard when I'm down in Florida. Yeah, next time I come and see you, I'm gonna hit that ice cream shop on trivia night. So I'm pretty good at music trivia.
So we went way off the highway on that one, but
sure.
So here's the thing with pieces, and this is what happens: is that people. They gather things as they're building things for retirement. We gather up IRAs, we gather up maybe Roth IRAs in recent years, we gather up 401ks, life insurance policies, annuities, all of these things. I'm sure in our genre, maybe you even have some still savings bonds from our parents. They were buying savings bonds every week at work, things like that. So you have this whole collection of stuff. And, and the fact is, I had an interesting email from a guy, and I ended up calling him, and we were talking about the show, and he said, "I love listening to you." He said, "But, he said, Bruce, I don't know, man." He said, You seem like, you just have a totally different viewpoint on this stuff." He said, "At the end of the day, it's just about the portfolio. It's about, as long as my portfolio does okay, I'm great." And I said, "Well," I said, "a portfolio is what you got you here. And I'm not telling you what you have is wrong. And I'm not telling you that it's broken, but you have a collection of stuff. But the question becomes this: number one, what's your goal? You know, and you ask people that, and you'll get a million different answers from a million different people. And I say, but let me ask you, can we agree on this goal? I worked hard for this money. I've accumulated this money. I have these pieces that if I add up, I can get a total value. Can I get the greatest value out of this money while I'm retired? Can my spouse get it if she survives me? Can my kids get value? I worked hard for it. I don't want it to be squandered. I don't want it to be wasted. I don't want it to be lost unnecessarily to things that I could have controlled and I could have done better. And you want to get the most out of what you have. And he's like, yeah, I can get behind that. I definitely like that. I said, and that's the one common thread that I think all of us can agree on, but most of us have never thought of it that way, but what people don't realize is the drag that occurs, with if you don't have a tax strategy that's custom fit to you, you'll find yourself paying unnecessary taxes, and that's a drag on your money. This is actually part of our new seminar series. This was some research we were doing, and this one, I have to tell the truth, this one really, really, really shocked me. And you don't know this is coming, so I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Oh boy, here we go. I don't know.
Lucky Tony. So,
do I need a calculator? I was told there would be no math.
You might. I think you can figure it out, but if you need to, you can use a calculator. That'll work. All right. So here's the question.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about 30 years of retirement because we build out, planning for, 25, 30 years. So 30 years, you have $1 million today, and you're paying 1% for a fee of some kind. It could be the advisor fee, it could be tax drag, it could be whatever, but it's costing you 1% per year. So how much does that cost you in a year?
$10,000.
$10,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And on $1 million, that's not the end of the world, right? What's that going to cost in 30 years?
A lot more.
How? Well, what's the math? 30 times 10, right?
Right.
And $300,000. That's a bigger number, and nobody's excited about a $300,000 number. You go, okay, that's fine. So, and that's when people look, I mean, do-it-yourselfers. They've done this math. They've done this calculation. Sure. Right now, there are listeners out there going, I can't believe this guy is going to talk about this on the air. He's an investment advisor. Those guys charge fees. Why is he talking about this? Is insanity. This guy is self-destructive. Oh, wait till you see where it goes. So $300,000.
Yeah.
So we show that in the seminar. We say, okay, so if you have $1 million and if you have a 7% average return over 30 years, you end up at $7.2 million. That's just growing the money, not taking any income, just growing the money. Okay. That 1% drag didn't cost you $300,000. It costs almost $2 million.
Yeah.
Because of the compounding.
Yes.
So why in God's green earth would I tell this to people? Why would I illuminate this fact? Well, for two reasons. Number one is that if you have somebody that you're paying a fee to, and all they're doing is telling you 60-40, here's your portfolio, we're, quote, managing your investments and nothing more, that's not costing you $300,000. That's a $2 million price tag. And this is why people fire their advisors and say, I'm going to do it myself. For $2 million, I'll do it myself. Okay, that's fine. But that's not the only leak in your bucket. You've got a lot of other leaks. You've got the sequence of return risk. You've got the loss of money and legacy. You've got the loss of money to unnecessary taxes. You have loss of money as far as improper income streams. Because here's how money worked when you were working, is that you were putting money. Most people today, they don't have a pension. They've got a 401k. And, and Wall Street loves to tout, don't worry, it will always come back. Well, yes, it will come back, but let's talk about how it came back.
And when.
Well, how and when, but most importantly, when you were saving your money, when you were putting money into your plan, you were putting money in. Your employer was putting money in. The market went south, you saw the number drop, and you came to expect roughly how long it would take to rebuild that portfolio. But what happened was the market was down. You were shoveling money in, and your employer was shoveling money in while those prices were depressed. So as the market's coming up, it's not just that you're making money, it's that you're making and adding money, and you bought cheap. You bought automatically on the dip, dollar cost averaging. We've all heard about that. Okay. Yep. That's wonderful. All right. So that's great. So you get to retirement, and Wall Street, financial advisors, insurance agents, banks, they all, just stay the course, just stay in the portfolio the way you've been doing things. It's all great. And they give you all these wives' tales. Well, here's the problem. You now have negative compounding, because now when that market drops, you still get you're still pulling money out. You still need that retirement paycheck, because you're not contributing. Your employer's not contributing, and you're withdrawing money at the worst possible time. You're taking money out that will never be there to grow in the future. And it can decimate over time the money you have available for that lifestyle that you planned for.
Yeah.
So having all of these pieces.
That's the timing piece right there.
That's it.
The sequence of returns is like the negative of compounding interest, of dollar cost averaging. What's the opposite of dollar cost averaging? Sequence of returns.
Inverse dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
Inverse dollar cost withdrawals. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, and this is something you don't stop and think about it, and most people don't want to think about it. But when you look at the math, and then we have another slide now. We said, average return is not equal to a successful retirement. And people are like, well, what are you talking about? I say, okay, let's look in the short term. Let's say you had a 3-year run in the market and you average 10%. And that's real. We see people, hey, last 3 years, I've done 10%. Okay, that's fine. Let's say you did 30, you retired. First year out, you did 30%. Woohoo. Second year, you did 30%. Wow. Third year, there's a 30% drop in the market. Now, 30 plus 30 is 60, minus 30 is 30, divided by 3 years is a 10% average return. And in that scenario, that $1 million you had, if you were taking $60,000 a year out for income, you're going to have just a hair over $1 million. But if you had that 10% average return, where the first year out, you retire this year and everything keeps being weird and prices go through the roof, fuel's through the roof, fertilizer's short, food supply issues, all this, let's say it goes down 30%. Next year goes up 30%, and the next year goes up 30%. It's still a 10% average return. That $1 million taking that income, you're at about $940,000. And that's just in 3 years' time. So does wealth preservation, wealth protection have a place? Absolutely. You want to have that good upside potential, but you want to look at all the pieces, and you do want to kind of bring them together, but not just the investment pieces. We have the new thing called the Retirement Value Control Panel. And it's basically something now we're able to send out an email before we have our 20-minute discovery calls with people. And they answer 4 questions. It takes less than 3 minutes. And with the answers to those 4 questions, we're able to build the custom panel for them and show them their knobs positioned. Do you have a tax value optimization? Are you optimizing your income? Are you optimizing your risk? And are you optimizing your legacy value to your family? And it gives you an average score. It's basically, okay, you're a 4.2. Well, if it was an 8, it's millions of dollars. For somebody who has $1 million portfolio today over a lifetime, it's easily $1 million benefit for most people. So understanding not just the pieces from the aspect of the different investments you have, but it's the pieces that also are going to give you cost factors in the form of taxation, income, and legacy.
Yep. And you know what? That's huge. And I know that you talk about the 4 aspects of a plan. You talk about risk, which we've been talking about. And then there's taxes, income, and legacy. And we can dig into it a little more, but this is great stuff. Before we move on, Bruce, I want to send people to that new website. And you'll notice after we started the show, a new banner arrived. So I put it up while we were going. Our viewers may have noticed the banner switched midstream here. WhyWealthKare.com is the new website, right?
And if you did notice, reach out to Tony and he will send you a board puzzle.
Yes, exactly. No. We're not giving away puzzles. All of ours have been open, and who knows if they're missing pieces. We have 4 cats and a dog, and we had 3 children. So I don't know how many of our puzzles still have all the pieces. That's the problem. But Bruce, if people want to get a hold of you, you have a strategy session. They can call and talk about this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's our retirement value discovery call, and it's easy peasy to do. It's give us a call at 888-888-5601 and say, hey, I want to have one of these discovery calls. I want to talk about my plan. It's 20 minutes. First of all, it's probably the most valuable 20 minutes you're going to spend in your retirement or for your retirement. You don't have any preparation. You don't have to have a bunch of paperwork. You're not coming in for a physical appointment. It's a chance for us and we have a framework we follow, and we want to get the most out of that time for you and for us. We want it to be a valuable conversation. Before we have that call, now we will send out that simple email where you pick 4 multiple choice questions, our favorites, not that you have to fill in the blank or anything.
Sure.
It's basically 1 question about risk, 1 about taxes, 1 about income, and 1 about legacy. You pick your answers, let us know what those answers are, and we can build that panel for you. But have that discussion, and based on our experience, our knowledge, our tools, everything we do, in that conversation, we're able to get a feel for where you are, where you want to be, and what is the next step. What's the thing? What could you do to make your plan better? What could you do to optimize your plan? And we're going to share that next step with you, whether you choose to ever work with us or not, whether you're a do-it-yourselfer, whether you're like, hey, I want to take this great idea to my advisor. You can do that. That's fine. Let's have that discussion because we're fluid in what we do. And we have that expanded universe of the planning that we build plans for everybody. We don't work with everybody. There's got to be a good fit. It's got to be a good use of our time if we're going to get to the point of you coming in for an appointment, bringing materials, engaging us to do planning. And our planning is it's basically has no upfront cost. Basically you come in, we do a plan. We want you to be happy with the plan, satisfied with the plan. If not, you just cancel the plan and walk away. There's nothing to it. So we made it as easy as possible, but it all starts with a conversation. And if you want to know more, like why would you work with WealthKare? Maybe you're hearing the show for the first time. Maybe you've heard it for, my son. I'm going to bring my son Bruce into this. Maybe you've heard the thing for 5 years. You've been listening to the old man. Well, if you want a very clean synopsis of why would you work with WealthKare or why should you consider WealthKare, visit us online at WealthKare.com. There are 21 less than 2-minute videos on that single page. You don't have to surf around or anything. And you can kind of get insight to a lot of really good things. And then we do have a second site. If you have retirement questions, the top 20 retirement questions, we answer them again under 2-minute videos on askwealthkare.com. That's askwealthkare.com. But whywealthkare.com is really kind of our new go-to site. And at the bottom of that page, you click the button and you can schedule right there your 20-minute retirement value discovery call. Would love an opportunity to talk with you. It'll either be either my son, Bruce, myself, or Chris. And it's a framework call. It's not a bunch of craziness. You're not going to get a sales pitch. You're not going to get hyped. It's meant to give you value. We want you to walk away from that call with value. And our goal is to give you, if everything's perfect, everything lines up great, then great. It reaffirms what you're doing. But if there's an opportunity to squeeze more juice out of the orange, we want you to have that. And it all starts with the conversation. 888-888-5601 or visit us at wealthcare.com.
All right. And we're going to be right back with more of Unlock Your Retirement. Welcome back. I am your co-host, Tony Shore, and I am here with our host, the man with the plan, Bruce Smith III. And we've had a great show so far talking about, do you have a plan or do you just have the pieces of your plan? You need to put them together. And I'm not going to use my analogy. I already said it before, but I'm just going to refer to our host as box lid for the rest of the show. No, that's Bruce. But Bruce, great show so far. And again, I want to remind listeners, go to whywealthcare.com, and that's care with a K, whywealthcare.com, and Y is spelled out, WHY, wealthcare.com, for a lot of great information. You'll be able to see so many great videos and take care of everything you need right there. So before we ended, I know that you look mainly at WealthKare. You look mainly at 4 areas: risk, which we've talked about, volatility risk, outcome risk, sequence of returns risk. But there's 3 other areas: taxes, income, and legacy. And they play a big part. Those are some of the pieces. And of course, people say, I know about taxes. I pay them all the time. But this is one of the biggest ones. And you were talking about what is the value of paying a fee, a percentage of your investments to a wealth advisor, a financial advisor, financial planner, a fiduciary like yourself. And I think one of the biggest areas is where you're going to save so much money are taxes, and you can save a lot of money every year, right?
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting item, and we've kind of modified this discussion a little bit. You use the word risk, and right away you use the word risk, and you use the word portfolio.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we don't look at risk from a portfolio perspective. We look at risk as the risk to your plan. The risk to your plan. All of these things are fair game for potential destroyers of what you wanted your plan to accomplish. The biggest one, the biggest leakage area, the biggest area where money is just thrown away, the biggest drag on a retirement plan is taxes. Because you said, so many years ago, you were recommended by the 401k guy at work or the HR people or a broker or whatever. Pay taxes later. You're going to be in a lower tax bracket. It's going to be marvelous, wonderful, stupendous. Well, guess what? The game has changed. And that's the compounding of that money and the compounding of the tax bill that has happened over the years. It's a big number, and it's very simple. Cars. I'm probably not as car focused as I used to be, but it's like, if you went into one dealership and this particular car that you're looking at is $30,000 and it's blue and it's a certain level and it's all these things. So you just happen to go on vacation with your family and you roll into a dealership for the same brand and you see exactly the same car, exactly the same accessories, exactly everything. And they had one of those big, ugly neon signs in the window. And it says, on sale today, $22,000. It's a commodity. It's the same car. It's going to drive the same, run the same, be the same.
Sure.
It's brand new, same manufacturer, same warranty. One's 30,000, one's 22,000. Well, I kind of like the 22,000 one.
Sure.
Believe it or not, that's how taxes work in retirement. Is that you're going to pay taxes. Are you paying your fair share? Are you paying the right amount, or are you significantly overpaying based on what the tax code allows you to pay? Yeah. We're not looking for some slick dodge. We're not doing a fudge factory in the Bahamas or something goofy like that offshore. We're talking about regular, simple, understanding what the rules are and what can we do to reduce that number. That's one of your biggest leakage areas. And that's one of the biggest drags in retirement is taxes, without question. So if you have an advisor that is charging a management fee, as you alluded to, as we do, our average management fee for a portfolio, for the way that we construct them, we typically come in somewhere between 0.6 and 1%, depending on how the portfolio is constructed. And we don't see a lot of ones. I mean, it's more about a 0.75 is probably an average. So if you're paying somebody 1% for portfolio management, and all they're doing is talking about your investments, they're not giving you a tax strategy. They're not giving you an income guardrail strategy with the goal of increasing your retirement income every 2 years, because you're going to need that for inflation. It needs to be out there. And then, what is the bill to your family? How much are they going to pay? You can either they get what's left over, or they get what you plan for them to get. And believe me, what the leftovers look like versus what the plan number looks like are two totally different numbers. And guess what? It was your money. You worked hard for it. You saved. You managed it all those years that you were working. And believe me, when I said, I've never once had somebody say, if you have a choice of this amount of money going to the government or to your family, this is the difference between your plan now and our plan. And, so would you rather this money go to the government or go to your family, your spouse, your heirs, your charities? And they're like, well, I worked hard for this money. I want it to go over there. I've never had one person in 40 years say, no, I would like that to go to the government. I've never had it happen.
Right.
There's an exception out there somewhere, but I haven't met them. Yeah. And if that's the case, we can't help you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, and I think it is important. And there you're actually creeping into legacy. It's about legacy and what you're able to leave and to who. And that's another one of the four big pillars of the plan.
Legacy is what it can do. Everybody gets focused on how much they get, and I'm sorry. I mean, I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm slower, I'm many things. But, when I look at that legacy number, it used to be a number that meant this is how much money we expect them to get upon your demise. It's gone so far beyond that. It's how life-changing. Because it's your worth that is now being transferred to the next generation. And what can it do for them? What will it do? How will they remember you? What did you, I worked, I lived, I died. Money went to my kids, but here's what they did with it. And here's what happened. Here's the trip they took. Here's the business they started. That's one thing I've always idolized about if you look at Asians and the Asian, their business strategies, they think 2, 3, 4 generations down the road. And that's why they're so very successful in so many things they do. It's not that grab it right now mentality. And it's something I've always enjoyed looking at their business model, and I think they hold true to that. And there are other nationalities that do the same thing, but I've studied that model, and I'm just like, wow, it's just amazing how it compounds over generations. So I think it's very important, but it's not just a number. It's the change it makes for your family, and how will it impact them? You don't want it to impact them negatively, even though they're getting more money. Maybe right at their retirement time, because we don't know when we're going to shuffle off this mortal coil, And these are things that with a living, breathing plan, the way that we build our elite wealth planning, we can ask that question today. We can ask it 5 years from now. We can ask it 10 years from now, and that the management level you're getting addresses all of those things. And we can say, okay, it's something. Whenever somebody comes to us, and it's unfortunate, but they're like, hey, I got diagnosed with whatever, and this is my expected lifespan now. So it's a hard question, but we deal with it. We're like, okay, let's run into the plan. Let's take a look at this and let's see what's what and what can be done now. Do we need to accelerate any planning or whatever? It's truly almost like a member of the family. I have the greatest job in the world. I don't work ever because if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And it's so true. We're very blessed. We're thankful for our
clients. Your whole job centers around helping people. What could feel better than that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, in an industry that's built on selling people, and that was the thing I hated. My first 10 years, I was a broker in this business, and our job was to sell stuff to people. And I hated that, and poor Monica, I mean, I'd gone from broker all the way to vice chairman of Investors Capital up in Boston. We went to New York, went ding, 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 rang the bell, went public. I had a nice windfall. We're driving back, and I said, I'm not digging this broker thing. I don't like selling products to people. I want to help people manage their money with a higher level of wealth management than they're used to. And she's like, you're going to quit your job. The same guy that quit his nuclear engineering job after he got out of the Navy, cold turkey. So this poor girl's been through everything. So God bless her. I love Monica to death. She's my girlfriend.
We pray for her daily. Bruce, just know that
she needs it. She deserves it. She did drop a little kernel in my lap the other day that this year will be 45. So
wow, that's huge. I thought my
45
wife
years of putting up with me. Oh my God, what were you thinking, young lady?
She's eligible for sainthood. We know that she's a saint. My wife is as well. 33 years for me. This June it'll be
your kids.
This June it'll be 34. So we're excited about that. But that leads into talking about family and what really matters. People worried about that bank account, but why you're doing all this and why you have to have a plan in place is not only for yourself, your spouse, your family. And I think that's why planning ahead for what's going to happen tax-wise in retirement is so huge, especially on an elite WealthKare level. The more you make, the more important that becomes, because the more you have to coordinate if you want to keep more of what you make. Otherwise, you're going to give up more and more of what you make. But on the other side of the coin, it really does apply to everyone. Now, we talked about taxes. We even talked about legacy and estate planning. And it used to be, you're right, it used to be just like, this is how much we're going to leave to the kids. Here's what you get. It's in a will, done. Or maybe there's a power of attorney. It's so much more than that now. It's so much more complex. There's so many more things you have to consider, and especially the tax implications of your money and where it's at. All these tax deferred accounts, inherited IRAs, the rules have constantly changed. They changed just a year or so ago. Once again, they keep changing the rules that we play by. And that's where you earn your keep, Bruce, is helping your clients keep up with all this, staying on top of it, and being able to utilize that knowledge to help them minimize their tax burdens. But really, we kind of glossed over the actual income and the creation of income and looking at that. And that's one of the big four. You retire on income, you have to structure it. And so that includes things, and we've mentioned it before on shows, but Social Security, you have to look at all the sources, right?
Right. The source, you have to look at the sources. You have to look at the type of sources, and from an advice perspective, I have to share this. So recently, and we custodian with Schwab Institutional. That's who we use as our custodian, our warehouse, if you will, for the holdings for our clients. But I had to go to a Schwab retail office and do a password reset for myself. And so Monica and myself and my son, we actually went in because we all three had to do it. And so the guy said, well, it's going to be like 20 minutes till the computer verifies who you are and all that. Like, okay. So we sat down and they had nice little mints there and, some TV and all that. And this lady came in, and now my back is to her. And this is a Schwab retail office. And she walks in, she says, I'm here to check on my RMD, the forced retirement income you got to take, required distributions. And the guy said, okay. And he got her information, got her account brought up. And he said, well, here's the amount you need to take. And she said, okay. She said, now, but do I have to sell something? Do I have enough cash for that? No, she didn't have enough cash. You have to sell. All right. And then she went into this discussion about, well, if I sell, will I have capital gains? And what about this? And what about that? And I listened, and the guy is giving her absolutely wrong information.
Oh.
I mean, just point blank, like, he's answering a question from one perspective, but given what her account was, it was totally wrong. And I'm sitting there, and Monica looked at me, she said, what's wrong? I can tell I said, nothing. I just have to sew my lips together because, I'm in a foreign territory here.
Sure.
And the lady sat down right beside me, and I'm kind of going, ooh, I'm vibrating, And I came back and I was talking to Chris about it. And he said, well, I would have told her. I said, no, you wouldn't have told her anything. You don't do that, You're not our advisor. You're in Schwab, But, when you get advice on this stuff, and the advice that people get for income is, there's two drivers for the income discussion. One is you providing us information as to what your family budget is. And I can tell you point blank with all my years of experience, that question is just, you might as well throw it out the window for most people. Yes, we get some people that they have a spreadsheet, they have everything down to the penny, but they're 1 out of 50. 49 other people, it's a guess. They just throw a number out there. And most advisors accept that. It drove me crazy because it's bad math. If I don't have a good number of what your expenses are, how do I give you a good number of what the income needs to be? So we took a different approach. We said, okay, so this is an advanced planning approach, is that we actually identify all of the income sources. We say, okay, so you have this much coming in for your Social Security, this much for your spouse's Social Security. If there's a pension involved or some kind of a guaranteed payout or an inherited IRA or whatever, we look at all these items. We say, okay, so with the wealth that you have, here is what your monthly income could be. This is the ceiling of what it could be.
Sure.
And they're like, oh, I don't need that amount. Okay, that's fine. I said, now, but we're putting two additional items in here. And that is, number one, is that if your wealth level goes up to this number, this becomes your new monthly number. And they go, oh, I don't need that. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but here's the thing. Things are going to cost more 2 years from now. You can pretty much bank on that one. Healthcare, a lot of unknowns, or just different things. So we want to be able to raise that income. So we have built in a goal at WealthKare of saying, okay, let's plan on increasing your income every 2 years. Well, that's a huge difference than the guy that says, my advisor says the 4% rule. So you take 4% of my investment and that's what I get. And then right away we say, okay, is that spendable or is that what you're taking out, but you don't get to spend that much? And they're like, what are you talking about? Well, you got taxes. I have $1 million, 4%, I can take $40,000 out. I got $40,000 a year income. No, you don't, because you got to give, $10,000 a year to Uncle Sam or whatever it is.
It's a joint account with Uncle Sam. You got to pay Uncle Sam.
It's a joint account with Uncle Sam. So by having these guardrails, and now the other side of that, because we're held accountable, if the portfolio drops in value, then we need to adjust that income downward. Now, we build in wealth protection and wealth preservation elements, so we don't have the probability of that happening is very slim. But it does provide a great talking point, and that is, if you come to us and you're just bound and determined to buy that new shiny lime green RV, or you've got a great deal on a piece of equipment that a friend is selling or a family member or whatever, and you say, I need to lump this money out, regardless of the cause, regardless of why, if that portfolio drops to that amount, there needs to be an adjustment in income. It's probably not going to happen based on the market, but it very well could happen because of expenses or spendthrift elements that occur. And people love it. They love how we build our income guardrail system because it's a planned conversation that they're involved in from day one, instead of saying, you have this pile of money and we're going to take money out. If you need more, give us a call. It's not that lazy, crazy stuff. It's something that's very tactical.
Sure.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think
so. I'm really ramped up today. I don't know whether you can.
No, that's good. No, that's really good. I mean, yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left of the show, and I think this is good because a lot of people think they have a plan, but again, they just have the pieces. How do we put them together? You look at these areas, you start there, you work with a trusted financial services professional, and I think a good place for them to start. We'll mention this again at the end of the show, but I'm going to mention it again. That new website you have is amazing. And I want to tell our listeners about the resource that's available to them at no charge. They can go there and check this out. WealthKare.com. And that's Y spelled out WHY, wealthkare.com. And it's care with a K. So WealthKare.com. And it's like the question, why WealthKare.com? And Bruce, tell us a little bit now about what they're going to find there and why you created this site. I think it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and this is it took hundreds of hours. No joke. I personally had hundreds of hours involved in these two sites.
Yep.
So, we live in this ridiculously light speed, fast society. And I always say that everybody has attended short attention span training. They've got the short attention span theater. They have about 2 microseconds and then they're on to the next thing.
Right.
This is the life we have. We were wishing happy Easter and we were FaceTime with the grandkids and they've become avid readers. They love reading
That's
real
awesome.
books. Oh my God, I'm the happiest guy in the world. I'll buy libraries for them. It's just I'm so excited about that.
That's cool.
But we were 5 minutes into the conversation. Lily's like, I'm gonna go to my room. Okay. I get it. But we instead of having to go to a site and navigate around or what about this or what about that, this is we're very excited about the design. This is a one-stop shop.
Very cool.
You go there and there are 21 simple less than 2-minute videos on a variety of topics. And on the Why WealthKare page, it's basically an overview. What do we do? Who are the people that we work with well? Who are the people that don't do well working with us? We tell you right up front. If you're a micromanager, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, if you're a day trader, that's not us. That's not what we do. So there's 20 nice inputs of information that you can glean by just being on that page. We have people, we're tracking traffic and we see people are returning again and again, the same person and getting more content, which is good. So you can pace yourself. You can say, hey, I'm going to watch 1 2-minute video, or hey, I got time to watch 2, or hey, I just made popcorn. I'm going to watch all of them, whatever the case may be. And at the end of each one, we say, if this has resonated with you, then click the link at the bottom and schedule your 20-minute discovery call. It is very low key, very easy, low hurdle, no problem. And remember, that discovery call requires very little on your part. Schedule it, but show up. Please don't schedule it and have us standing by and you're not. We want you to be there because you want to be there, not because somebody told you to be there. So schedule the call, show up. You don't have to prepare for it, other than we will send you a method of answering 4 simple questions that are multiple choice, A, B, C, or D, and that's going to help us. That's going to help us frame the conversation, and it's kind of a self-assessment where you're able to share with us, where you feel you are in these categories, so we can make sure we dedicate the right amount of time during that call. And then from the call and things that we're going to glean from that conversation, what would be the next thing that could make a difference for you? And what is that next step? And we'll give you that next step. And that's something you can perform it yourself, work with a current advisor, and go find an advisor, or work with us. You have the option, but there's no pressure. There's no sales pitch, no hype. And people love it. It's a one-stop shop. It's super efficient. It's not YouTube where you're getting bombarded with ads every 10 seconds. God, I'm so sick of that. I see something I want to see on YouTube, but I got to share a YouTube moment here.
Oh, do.
Yeah, and you don't even know this is coming. So, ladies, for those of you that are out there that are with you, good with your hands and crafty. Okay, as a matter of fact, no joke. Here's super glue. Oh my God, I think in the last 10 years, the things I could have fixed with this. So I don't know about you. How do you do it with super glue? Does it work pretty well for you? Do you find that it doesn't really do a good job?
I've found in the past, maybe it's the brand I'm using, it doesn't do a good job.
It doesn't do a good job. It great claims, doesn't do a good job.
Yeah.
So I had to fix a tedious little piece inside of a meter. As a defect, it's in the meter. And I saw this YouTube video. The guy said how he did it. And I went, really? I broke a piece in our refrigerator. So I had to take the thing off the door that holds the ketchup bottles. I got the hook part that broke off. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this. Wait till you hear this. This is insane. So I took a couple drops of super glue and I put it in place. But you take baking soda and I just sprinkled baking soda and a couple drops of super glue, more baking soda, a couple drops. So I encourage anybody out there, first of all, you can buy a lot of super glue for a little bit of nothing these days at Harbor
Yeah,
Freight.
sure.
But get a piece of cardboard, put a little pile of baking soda on it, and put a couple drops of super glue. It gets hard almost instantly. It builds almost like a plastic. You can go to YouTube and put in super glue baking soda, and you'll see this. Oh my God, the things I could have fixed in the last 10 years. So there's your handyman tidbit today from your financial guru, Bruce Smith.
And it's baking soda, right?
Baking soda, not baking powder.
It's the baking soda must be this miracle thing,
really
because I don't know what it is. I'm not a science expert or what's in baking soda or how it works, but I've heard so many miracle fixes with baking soda. I've never heard this one, because super glue typically doesn't hold. It takes a long time to dry, and if you clamp it in any way to clamp the pieces together without getting super glue on the clamp so you can pull it apart without breaking it again. I mean, it's a pain, and it rarely works. So I'm going to try that. That's amazing.
This gets hard instantly. It's an exothermic reaction. It gets hot. I mean, it actually gets hot, but it'll build it builds like a support bridge. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, didn't expect that today on the show, but here we are.
I love it. I love it. The things we learn. Well, the whole purpose of the show is to be educational, and it wasn't just to learn that Bruce is also a box lid for a puzzle. It is to learn about
relative to Bruce Boxleitner, but a different family tree.
yeah. But Bruce Boxleitner, great guy, great actor. That's good. I love it. Yeah. Fantastic. This is fantastic. And speaking of that, speaking of famous people, since we're educating people, as of the recording of the show, breaking news came out. I saw it pop up. The Artemis II crew are now further from Earth than any other human beings ever have been. They've traveled farther in space than anyone. They're on the opposite side of the moon. They've traveled farther in space than anyone ever has. So that's a monumental thing.
Somebody sent you a picture today of what they saw on the moon.
I love that. They saw Wawa, Wawa's.
But the picture was taken from the parking lot across the street at the Dollar General. Oh my God. And then
wait, there's Wawas. The Wawas are everywhere. They're on the moon now. That's amazing that they got a shot of the moon and it had a Wawas on it.
To be fair to our listeners, there also was a Sheetz right around the corner. So
sure, of course. And a Starbucks.
The other one I sent him was a really cool rocket. It was a Coca-Cola bottom and Mentos at the top, and that's how they're going to propel the rockets for the shuttle back to the moon. So,
the top of the rocket was a giant Mentos package, and the bottom of the rocket was a Coca-Cola can. That's how they achieve the energy for launch. I love that.
That'll be the new propulsion. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you send that? I hope you sent that to Musk, Elon, for SpaceX. They could try that idea. My son and I did the Mentos Diet Coke thing in our yard or in our driveway once, and it's
amazing, isn't it?
It's legit. It was crazy.
It's violent. It is
violent. Yeah. We have a video of it. It was amazing. He did it for an experiment when he was younger for school, and I laughed hard. We had Coke. There was Coke everywhere, and it was shooting so far up into the air I couldn't believe.
Have you seen the ones where guys dump like 400 pounds of Mentos into like a 100-gallon vat?
No, that does not sound safe.
No, it's pretty cool.
I wouldn't want to be too close
to a lot of things, but
yeah. Careful, kids. Don't try this at home, and remember, no wagering. So just have to tell them that. A little disclaimer. Well, hey, Bruce, great topic today, talking about how do you have a plan? How do you know you have a plan? And the answer is pick up the phone, call WealthKare, and go to that site. So before we go, the website you need to go to right now, as soon as you're done listening, is pull the car over, though, first, is WealthKare.com. And that's Y spelled out, WHY, WealthKare.com, and care is spelled with a K. So WealthKare with a K. Great website. I've watched some of the videos. I haven't even seen them all. There's so many, and they're great. They're short. It's fantastic. So I love it. Well, Bruce, we're almost out of time here. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, and if you need us to glue your financial plan together, pull these pieces together into a cohesive, coordinated plan, we'll provide the baking soda and the super glue. But give us a call at 888-888-5601. And always a pleasure working with you, Tony. It's been a good show today, I think.
Yeah, great show today. Thanks, Bruce. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Unlock Your Retirement with our host, Bruce Smith.